All right, welcome to the show, everybody. Hope everybody out there is having an awesome day. And I can't keep up, bro. I cannot keep up. It is madness. It is chaos. It is bedlam. It is mayhem. It is whatever other word you want to use to describe this chaotic hellscape that we're living in. But in just a second, all hell has broken loose yet again in the Middle East as ballistic missiles are now raining on U.S. bases, and Iran has ended all talks because of Donald Trump's inability to stay true to an agreement along with Benjamin Netanyahu. We also have Trump in a total frenzy announcing war crimes on live TV as if he's like ordering a sandwich. Okay, I mean, this guy is so out of his own head, it is insane to witness. Later on, we have Trump panicking as 3 separate federal judges drop fatal verdicts that just one after the other, massive L after massive L after massive L. You do not want to miss that at all. Also later on, Gavin Newsom cucks himself to Israel in a viral humiliation. And I have to say, this stuff is beginning to catch up with him, bro. I don't know. I haven't seen him lead a poll in a while, and I think it's because of stuff like this. And then also, a Democratic Socialist goes on Fox News and smacks around the Fox host. That's glorious. And Joe Rogan absolutely ruined comedy, as I will prove to you today, because there's this new right-wing comedian, which is the culmination of everything the Rogan sphere has vomited out over the past decade. So we'll talk about all that and more. You guys know the drill, man. Do me a big favor, subscribe to the channel, click that bell icon. You can also support the show on Patreon. Remember, there's real independent media. I've never talked to an advertiser, never done an ad read. That wouldn't be possible without you guys giving $1 a month, $2 a month, $5 a month, or tipping with that thanks button on YouTube. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much for keeping this show going. You can also sign up for Crystal, Kyle, and Friends on Substack. I believe we have Joy Reid coming on this week. Really looking forward to that. And then also go sub to Corin's World. And today is my boy Corin's birthday. Everybody go wish him a happy birthday. I just tweeted about it. And by the way, the best birthday present you can give Corin is to go subscribe to Corin's World. That is the best birthday present. I mean, if we could gain him like 4,000 subs today, oh my God, that would like make his day. So go hook a brother up with a sub. And without any further ado, y'all, let's go ahead and jump right in. So, like I said, I'm running out of ways to describe to you just how screwed not only we are, but the entire global economy is, given the current state of affairs in the Middle East. People really don't get it. They really haven't wrapped their mind around it yet, okay? So now we have the U.S. and Iran just in an all-out fucking free-for-all, bombing everything in sight. Now, obviously, civilian infrastructure is on the table. This thing has escalated out of control. We are literally a pube hair's length away from basically ruining all of the oil and gas infrastructure in the Middle East, which would mean it would be at least a decade to get those things back online. So I'm not kidding when I say we are very close to just like casually ending modern civilization, in the sense that oil and gas is the lifeblood that keeps modern civilization going. And because of Trump's idiotic decisions, we may have like a permanent reduction in the availability of fuel, which will spike not only gas prices, but also grocery prices and basically grind the economy to a halt, okay? So first, let me show you this. Let's start here. The joy of Bahrainis as Iranian drone strikes U.S. position on their land. So this is what's been happening. U.S. bases have been getting barbecued for days straight now. Look at this video. Here we go. Shots like that have been hitting U.S. bases time after time for days now, okay? Take a look at this one. New footage shows 5 direct ballistic missile hits on the U.S. Muwafaq Salti Air Base in Jordan last night. So here's a U.S. air base in Jordan also getting lit up. And what you're also going to see here is an attempt to intercept the ballistic missiles. And I believe some of them work, but some of them fail. And the ballistic missiles get through, and they light the base up. Watch this. Damn. Okay, so let me lay this out for you. Dropsite News says, U.S. Central Command says it completed a 7-hour wave of strikes on Iran, ending at 10 p.m. Eastern Time Tuesday, hitting dozens of military targets near the Strait of Hormuz and along Iran's coast. CENTCOM said fighter aircraft, drones, and naval vessels targeted Iranian missile and drone sites, naval capabilities, and coastal defense systems. The operation began 1 hour before the U.S. resumed its naval blockade of vessels traveling to or from Iranian ports. CENTCOM Commander Admiral Brad Cooper separately accused Iran of attacking 7 commercial ships over the past week, leaving nearly a dozen civilian crew members killed, missing, or wounded, and launching dozens of missiles and drones toward neighboring Gulf countries. Now, by the way, let me pause to point out here yet again, all of these ships that Iran has attacked in the Strait of Hormuz, they got multiple warnings beforehand. And the reason why Iran ended up attacking them is because those ships with U.S. backing are in violation of the Memorandum of Understanding. The Memorandum of Understanding says you have to go through the pre-approved route that Iran shows everybody because the rest of the strait is mined, okay? And also now Iran and Oman control the strait. And so under the Memorandum of Understanding, the U.S. cannot take these other routes. Well, the U.S. has been flouting the Memorandum of Understanding and taking these other routes, putting everybody at risk too, by the way, I should also point out, because like I said, the rest of the areas are mined. And so they got their forewarning. They didn't listen, probably because the U.S. military said, no, you're going to continue. You're not going to listen to the warning. And then they ended up getting blown up. That's point number one. Point number two is they say, oh, we hit all these different military targets. Well, I'm about to show you in a little bit. That is not true. They've hit plenty of non-military targets, as you'll see. Okay, according to Axios, Donald Trump held a Situation Room meeting Tuesday to discuss a major expansion of the U.S. military campaign against Iran. The sources said the meeting focused on plans for devastating strikes on strategic targets across Iran beyond the current operations around the Strait of Hormuz. The meeting came after U.S. forces launched another wave of strikes on Iran, carrying out a 7-hour operation that hit dozens of military targets near the Strait of Hormuz and along Iran's southern coast, including missiles and drone sites, naval assets, and coastal defenses, according to CENTCOM. So, as we have now multiple rounds of bombing orgies that Trump approved, okay, as that's going on, they have a meeting in the Situation Room where Trump goes, let's bomb more. Let's do another attack. Let's do a different kind of attack. I'd love to keep attacking. We should keep attacking. And by the way, all the people, so-called nominally anti-war people, were in this meeting fucking nodding along and agreeing with Donald Trump, like J.D. Vance, who pretends to be anti-war. Then the second he gets behind closed doors, that's a great idea, sir. I'll be your little cuck boy, sir. Absolutely. Let's murder more Iranians, sir. That's what's going on. All right. Breaking, Iran hit another tanker this morning in the Strait of Hormuz, the fourth in just a few hours. So Trump came out the other day and posted that we're going to control the strait from now on because we're the guardian angel of the Middle East. We're going to control it. And also, we're going to charge people 20% to use the Strait of Hormuz. Now, Marco Rubio and everybody in the regime had been saying, nobody can charge anything to use the Strait of Hormuz or any strait. But the waterways are guaranteed open. This is the U.S. Superpower guarantee, free and open maritime trade. So they go from saying everything's free and open on the water, and that's a guarantee, to actually, we're going to charge 20%. That's what we're going to do. And so a bunch of people got in Trump's ear and they said, hey, you fucking jackass, that'll tank the oil markets even more. We already have a supply shortage, which is about to get a hell of a lot worse. And you want to add 20% on top of an already struggling oil market. Are you an idiot? Are you trying to destroy the global economy? And also, we were just running around telling everybody, we're guaranteeing open trade. And now you say, we're going to charge more than what Iran and Oman were going to charge to use the strait. So again, he shoots himself right in his tiny little mushroom cock, okay? Makes himself look like an idiot. And then he has to come out and clean it up, presumably because literally everybody in his orbit was like, look, we know we're all your little cuck boys and we agree with everything you say and do, but this even crosses a line because this has like the IQ of a potato. Okay, this decision has the IQ of a potato. So he says, oil is flowing like never before thanks to the awesome power of the United States military. Hilarious. The opposite is true. A special salute to Secretary of War Crimes, Pete Kegsbreath. Oh my God. They're doing a self-suck-off session after they're destroying the global economy and plunging us into World War III. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Dan Kane, and Commander of the U.S. Central Command, Admiral Brad Cooper. Because of them and all members of the most powerful military anywhere in the world, by far, the Strait of Hormuz is open to all ship traffic except for Iran. That's all total bullshit. You can see it now that there's like no traffic through the Strait of Hormuz. But to the extent there's any ship, like the odd ship here and there that get through, it's an Iranian ship. It's Iran or its allies. And that is because of their lying, violent, malicious leadership, which is taking them down the path of total destruction. We will therefore have a full blockade, but only ships coming to an end to and from Iranian ports or carrying anything that have to do with Iranian cargo. Based on highly productive conversations with Middle East leadership, I have decided to replace the 20% United States reimbursement fee with trade and investment deals that various Gulf states will be making in the United States. So in other words, oh, did I say 20%? 20% charge? Oops, everybody told me I'm a fucking moron, and I realized I got to U-turn out that bitch. Okay, humiliating. Here we go. Hormuz letter says, breaking. Iran announces its full withdrawal from the Memorandum of Understanding due to U.S. violations, with Iran's Deputy Foreign Minister, Garibaldi, saying Iran will exercise full sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz, no matter the costs, including Oman's half, adding that while Oman is normally one of two countries controlling a strait, for national security reasons, Iran must control all of the strait during wartime now, per Tasnim. Okay, so basically what that means is whatever sort of minor concessions Iran made before to accommodate the U.S., now they're saying, fuck all those accommodations. We're done. We're not even going to work with Oman to run the strait. Now just we're going to run the strait. Garibaldi said that the U.S. not only violated the agreement, but completely dismantled it, especially with the naval blockade on Iranian ports, ships, and customers that has taken effect 1 hour ago. Garibaldi adds Iran will never request negotiations with the United States. Will never request negotiations with the United States. Trump and Netanyahu fucked this up so bad. The axis of Epstein fucked this up so bad that Iran is saying, not only are we not going to talk to you now, we are never going to talk to you as long as you're in power. Why is that? We simply can't trust you. You've lied to us about absolutely everything. Keep that in mind for the next segment that we do, where Trump accuses Iran of lying about everything. That's fucking rich. Oh, is that rich? So this is what happens, guys. Now our word means nothing on the global stage. Our word means absolutely, positively nothing. And that's disastrous. You know, we pulled out of the Paris Climate Agreement. We pulled out of the JCPOA, the Iran Nuclear Agreement. We pulled out of agreements that Trump himself negotiated, economic agreements like with Canada, for example. Trump a number of times said, let's have negotiations, let's have peace talks, then invite somebody and murders them when they show up. Yeah, of course, the world eventually is going to catch on to this and be like, how about you go fuck yourself? Look at this. Iran appears to be trying to shut down a lifeline of the global oil market. This is super important, guys. Pay attention here. The shuttle tankers that are running from Persian Gulf terminals, mostly UAE ports, to the Gulf of Oman, where they rendezvous with other tankers in ship-to-ship operations. So there are some interesting tricks that are being used to try to go around the Strait of Hormuz being shut. Okay, this is one of those tricks. And Iran is now going, okay, you want to play hardball, you fucking asshole? We can play hardball too. And so now they're trying to shut down that lifeline of the global oil market. Hormuz report says, breaking, Iran threatens to target the UAE's Fujairah pipeline and Saudi Arabia's East-West pipeline if the U.S. blockade continues, warning that not a single drop of oil or gas will be exported from the region and declaring either everyone exports or no one does. According to Tasnim, Tehran said any continued U.S. blockade on Iranian energy exports would be met by strikes on alternative regional export routes, specifically naming the UAE's Fujairah pipeline and Saudi Arabia's East-West pipeline. So in other words, every single little trick that was used to go around the Strait of Hormuz being closed. Like, you can't really make up for the strait being closed because we don't have the ability to export the same amount of oil through these alternate ways, right? But they were able to lessen the impact of the strait being closed by getting some oil out. Now Iran is saying, what if we actually make it so not a single drop of oil gets out? How about that? How you like them apples? All right, look at this. Remarkable story here in the Financial Times. Iran seems to have used a well-known vulnerability in cell networks to track U.S. military forces during the war. This is like on day one of the war when they immediately blew up our gigantic satellite in the Middle East and, the Secretary of War Crimes and Trump were sitting around with their thumbs up their asses, and they were like, oops, how the fuck did that happen? How'd they know that? Nobody thought they would have closed the Strait of Hormuz. Like, this reminds me of that. So you have this massive, well-known vulnerability, you do nothing to fix it, and then they've been exploiting it this entire time. Great, awesome, good stuff. You guys are really fucking brilliant. How about this? Roughly 66% of Iran's parliament issued a joint statement expressing desire for end of any agreements with the U.S. Jesus Christ, 66% saying, Under no circumstances should we work with the United States. Majority of lawmakers urge government to pursue revenge for the late Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. So again, what happens when we go full neocon warmonger asshole is that you now embolden the hardliners on the other side, where they don't want peace. They want to fucking get revenge. They don't trust you. They'll never trust you. And so it's the classic, like, war begets more war, violence begets more violence, and Trump is acting like a fucking jackass. He feels like, the more I bomb them, the more they're going to get to the table. I'm going to make them get to the table. No, you idiot. The opposite is going to happen. The more you bomb them, the more they realize their leverage with the Strait of Hormuz is the most important thing, right? And they're going to hold to that as hard as they possibly can. What a fucking idiot. Oh my days. Breaking. U.S. deploys 20-plus Navy warships and hundreds of military aircraft across the Middle East as it resumes the blockade of Iranian ports. Listen to this. Mohammed bin Salman called Trump on Friday and asked for support in the war against the Houthis per Axios. Saudi Arabia has officially joined the side of Israel and the U.S. in the regional war and directly attacked the airport in Sana'a. Now, this has massive consequences. This has massive consequences because basically the Houthis in Yemen can now block other routes to get oil out of there, and that's exactly what they're going to do. And now you open a new front in the war, and now that front is just as reliant on U.S. weapons and money as Israel is. And so, it's like an endless fucking money pit, which is why they're asking for $350 billion to pay for the war, and why they want a $1.5 trillion Pentagon budget overall. Is because this, yet again, we're in another forever war. That's what this is. It's another forever war. And I don't think we have the ability to actually win this shit. I don't think we have that ability. All right. Iran is currently launching a massive missile strike on Bahrain, with the U.S. Fifth Fleet being a key target. Here's a clip of that. As Professor Morandi says, last night the Trump regime bombed civilian infrastructure, a wheat silo, a water bottling factory, as well as a dormitory for conscript soldiers. Meanwhile, Iran focused on U.S. military assets, including equipment stored for a ground operation in Bahrain. All right, how about this one? U.S. CENTCOM says they bombed southern Iran for 7 hours tonight. And then here's some of the video of the stuff that got bombed, okay? These tiny little dingy-ass fishing boats. This is some of the stuff that got bombed. So as is pointed out here by Amir, aside from the fact that these are small privately owned boats, it reveals the absolute desperation of the U.S. They are bombing to bomb, bombing to hurt civilians while having no effect on Iran's military capabilities, while Iran is hammering U.S. assets all over the Middle East. Meanwhile, it's going to take days before the U.S. has exhausted its stockpile and strategic oil reserves. Meanwhile, USIS has made sure that not a single soul in Iran would want to negotiate with them ever again. Yes, Iran is suffering tremendously, but it has been suffering for decades. At least now there is a chance that the suffering might have an end, either by defeating the enemy once and for all, or by being annihilated. These are the two options left for Iran, winning or dying. The U.S. options are to either continue this madness or to stop committing genocide, pack their shit and go home, and maybe pay a 2% fee for the endless crimes they have committed. So, ladies and gentlemen, as I keep trying to warn you, as I keep trying to tell you, this is worse than the worst case scenario. I genuinely and sincerely don't know how much longer until gas prices skyrocket. The supply basically runs out. You have like a permanent, 20% shortage or more. And at that point, I don't know what happens. Are we talking about rationing gas? Are we talking about $7 a gallon gasoline? Are we talking about grocery prices skyrocketing? One thing I fear is that people not being able to afford the diesel for trucks that deliver food to like rural places. So you could have not just gas prices going up, but like genuine food shortages. They're really gambling with the future of the world here is what they're doing. And I don't know. They're really, I really think it comes down to the fact that they're genuinely just stupid. They're a bunch of baboons. And in the same way that like they denied and downplayed when it came to COVID until like, people were dying left and right, it's sort of like a similar situation here. I think Trump and the Secretary of War Crimes and Stephen Miller and all these idiots may have convinced themselves that like, hey, gas it's high, but it's not like, it's not apocalyptically high yet. They may have convinced themselves that like coasting on the Strategic Petroleum Reserve was actually okay. And like, we're not in horrible shape. But again, what happens when we get to the operational minimum and you can't really get anything else out of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve? Chaos. Chaos is what happens, and economic collapse is what happens, and everybody's way too calm about what's likely to come. I don't think people have any idea about what's likely to come. I said it before, I'll say it again. Donald J. Trump, Benjamin Netanyahu, the axis of Epstein, do everybody in the world a favor. Hold this big, fat, juicy L, you bitch. Hold this big, fat, juicy L. You lost. You lost. You fought Iran. You lost. They control the Strait of Hormuz. They control basically every avenue by which we can get oil to the West. They control it. They have veto power over the global economy. There's nothing you can do to stop it. Now you're in a corner. And what's Trump likely to do in a corner? Get even dumber, get even worse. And so what I fear is a ground invasion. What I fear is attempting to take Karg Island or the other little oil islands that they have there that are strategically important in Iran. And there is no way that that goes smoothly. 0% chance. Iran has won this war, full stop. It's all over but the fucking acknowledging of the fat pedophile rapist con man. And the sooner he acknowledges it, the better. Hold this big, fat, juicy L and, apologize for what you've done and agree to all of the terms Iran is demanding, because you know what? They're correct in those terms.
Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.
So Trump had an absolutely unhinged, completely hysterical interview with Fox News yesterday, and man, this is terrifying to watch, because this guy, his brain is simply not working anymore. It's just not working. He is completely and utterly unfit for this job. The stuff he says is catastrophic. I mean, he quite directly announces war crimes on live TV as if he's ordering a sandwich. Like it's nothing to him. Like, hey, idiot, you're violating U.S. law, international law. The International Criminal Court should come after you for this shit. The International Court of Justice should come after you for this shit. You should be in The Hague. Like, just casually saying, like, I am the new Adolf Hitler and I will do new Adolf Hitler things. That's basically what happens in this interview, on top of just an endless tsunami of lies, just verbal diarrhea of lies spewing everywhere, okay? Like you ate lettuce in RFK Jr.'s America. Let's start with this clip here. So Trump, in the midst of the U.S. relentlessly carpet bombing Iran, doing so for 7 hours straight, and Iran absolutely lighting up, U.S. assets in the region and U.S. military bases in the region with ballistic missiles and drones, Trump has the nerve to say this. Here we go.
3 days ago, we had a deal.
When was the last time you spoke with an Iranian official?
Well, not me, but let's say my representatives. I have spoken to them, but my representatives over the course of, actually, an hour ago.
And what message was delivered?
They want to make a deal.
That is one of the most shameless lies I've ever heard in my life. Quite literally, they have consistently said the exact opposite of that. What they've said is, we are pulling out of the MOU completely. And not only do we not want to do talks, we don't want to do talks ever with this regime. We're not interested at all in anything this regime is selling because you've lied about everything. There was not a single solitary second that the U.S. and Israel, the axis of Epstein, were actually abiding by the Memorandum of Understanding. Because part of that Memorandum of Understanding was Israel has to withdraw from Lebanon and keep Lebanon independent and sovereign. Instead, Israel said, go fuck yourself, and they kept occupying all of South Lebanon up to the Litani River. What are we talking about? So they just lied every step of the way, and here's Trump saying, they want to make a deal. Why would they want to make a deal with you? You don't ever uphold any of your terms of the deal. What a sick fucking joke. What a sick fucking joke, man. Holy shit. All right, here's Trump casually saying something that is provably, verifiably untrue. All you have to do is look at the trackers that they have on this stuff. But he's talking about the Strait of Hormuz. He says this.
On Monday, you announced that the United States is reimposing the U.S. blockade of Iranian ports.
Started now.
Shipping data trackers indicate that just 10 vessels passed through the Strait of Hormuz on Monday, less than 10% of what normally goes through this critical waterway. When you say the strait is open, what do you mean?
It's open if people want to go through it. We're not opening it for Iran. That's the only one it's closed for.
Okay, I'm not kidding when I say I actually don't know how it's possible to manage a country when this is the leader. This dude just said, and this is a Fox News guy, he just said in no uncertain terms, yeah, according to the trackers, less than 10% of the number of ships went through the Strait of Hormuz as would normally happen when there's not a war going on and it's not jammed up, right? Like, what's going on here? And his reaction is, it's open actually to everybody except Iran. Like, the exact opposite is the truth, and provably so. The ships that are going through are Iran or their allies, right? And, our ships are just totally blocked. That's it. It's over. It's done. He just goes out there and says the opposite like it's nothing. Like, I actually don't understand the psychology of a person this deranged. I mean, it is earth-shattering. It is record-breaking. You will never in your life ever again see a liar that lies so smoothly, okay? Ever. Because usually any decent person that has even a shred of a conscience, there'd be a little pause, a little hitch, a little like mental check of like, it feels weird that I'm just like flagrantly saying the opposite of what's reality. But not with him. Not with him. He lies like he fucking breathes. Okay. Then here we go, where, as you all know, all hell broke loose. The Middle East is on fire. There's missiles flying every direction. There's drones flying every direction. We violated the MOU. Iran is trying to hold us to that and fighting back effectively. And here, Trump casually is like, we actually won the war. It's over. It's great. It's done. Look at this.
But I think we've made tremendous progress.
So your objectives are to ensure that Iran never has a nuclear weapon, to keep the strait open, and to degrade the Iranian military. Can those objectives be completed in an air campaign alone? Or does this require a ground component?
Well, I think they're completed now, honestly. If we left right now, it would take them 20 years to rebuild what they have.
We've already completed our objectives. We won the war. And that's why you need to give me $350 billion to continue the war. We already won the war, and that's why I need $1.5 trillion in military spending to continue the war. We already won the war and it's over, but also don't ask for daycare, don't ask for any social safety net programs, because we got a war going on and we need to pay for the war. What a sick fucking joke. At the same time, the whole point of this interview is for him to explain how we're going to keep the war going, we're going to escalate the war, that's what we're going to do. And in the midst of saying that, he's like, we already won the war. Well, if you won the war, get the fuck out and shut the fuck up. How about that? But you didn't win the war. You got your ass handed to you. Oh, my days. All right, ready for this? Here, we have Trump babbling about Obama and, of course, just getting everything dead wrong on purpose.
Do you believe the Iranians are serious about making a deal?
I think they have no choice.
Why haven't they yet?
I think if I didn't do the way I'm doing, they would never make a deal. They would have never made a deal with Obama. That deal was the worst deal. What they did sign was a worthless piece of paper.
They would have never made a deal with Obama when they literally did make a deal with Obama, and all of the evidence indicates they were following it perfectly. Verified over a dozen times by the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency. Again, what's even the point? What's even the point of doing this interview? I don't get it. All you're going to get is a tsunami of lies and then like flashes of him being a flat-out serial killer. Here we go.
What they signed with Obama was a worthless piece of paper that was a road to a nuclear weapon. Oh. And what I have is a wall. There will be no nuclear weapon.
What a fucking jackass. Oh, my days. It would be insane for them not to try to get nukes now, considering it's the only thing that can protect them from aggression from Israel and the U.S. And what Obama did was ensure they definitely wouldn't get a nuke, and they didn't. And we've proven that. I can't, bro. I can't. And he's acting like they're going to have no choice but to make a deal. Really? Then why is it every time you bomb the shit out of them, their reaction is the opposite? Their reaction is to say, we're going to cut off all ties. We're not going to talk to you at all. We're shutting the Strait of Hormuz. We're shutting the other strait as well. We're going after now any alternate ways to get oil out of the Middle East. We're going to attack those now as well. So he keeps acting like they have no choice but to make a deal, when in reality, it's only gotten worse and worse and worse, and they've only dug in their heels deeper. Why? Because you're the one that's actually impossible to make a deal with. You're the one. As he ironically says, it's them that you can't make a deal with. You're the one that we can't make a deal with, period. Then he has the nerve, y'all, to say this.
They said they didn't want a nuclear weapon.
Well, they say that. Everything they say is a lie. They lie. I've never seen anything like it. They also come out and they'll tell you we never discussed nuclear, and we're in a room for 5 hours. That's all we discussed. And they'll walk out and say, nuclear was not discussed. Everything was discussed.
He is such a disgusting liar. It has been consistently reported that for the memorandum of understanding which is what the negotiated settlement was before, right? That one of their conditions was, we're not going to address anything when it comes to nuclear issues in this conversation. The memorandum of understanding was just like, hey, let's do a temporary pause of hostilities to agree to continue talking to have like more of a long-term settlement. And by the way, since Trump fucked this up 1,000 ways to Sunday, all of the terms are 100%, Iran's terms. Like, they won. They get to demand the sun and the moon here, right? But this, like, he just gets it exactly backwards and exactly wrong every single time. And he says, they lie like they breathe. I've never seen anything like it. Oh my God, you're describing yourself. There was, in Trump's first term, at the end of his first term, there was, I believe it was like a Washington Post report. And correct me if I'm wrong, guys, on the specifics. But I want to say they were able to count over 30,000 lies told by Trump in his first term. And that was the relatively sane term compared to this one, which is like we're, living in hell. Now it gets even scarier because now we start talking about what he's going to do in the future. Here we go.
You posted today on True Social comments that you made back in 1988 about Karg Island. And at the time you said, one bullet shot at one of our men or ships, and I'd do a number on Karg Island, I'd go in and take it.
Yeah.
Do you still intend to take Karg Island?
So I can't say that to you because if I did, it would be foolish, right? But it'd be nice to make a little headlines, but it would be foolish. But
why are his eyes like half closed and he's like seemingly asleep here? This is part of the issue with his cognitive decline. The part of his brain that regulates circadian rhythm has broken down. So now he's awake all night and posting about fucking Bette Midler and Barbara Streisand and posting AI slop. And then during the day, when he's supposed to be awake and energetic, he's like half asleep.
I'll tell you about Karg Island. So we've already...
Are you ruling out a ground campaign in a limited capacity?
I don't want to say that either, but I would say no.
Remember when MAGA used to say, no new wars? We're the no new wars people. We're the pro-peace ticket. This is what J.D. Vance was posting memes of him and Trump. The pro-peace ticket. No new wars. Going to prevent World War III. No more forever wars is what they said. Here he is. Maybe we'll do a ground invasion. Maybe we'll do that. And by the way, stop and think about it. If you don't just take your big fat juicy L and go home and give Iran what they want, right? Well, what is the other option? The other option is ground invasion, taking Karg Island, or doing something atrocious and horrific, even worse, like nuking them, chemical weapons, biological weapons, Moab, right? Like, that's all that's on the table. And here he is sort of admitting, like, we're going to do that. They just had a meeting in the Situation Room where Trump was asking, he's like, let's escalate. What you got for me? What are the plans here to escalate?
If I thought it was appropriate, I'd say sometimes you need a ground campaign, but we have...
Oh, quote, sometimes you need a ground campaign from no new wars, we're the no new wars people, no new wars, no new wars, no new wars, to sometimes you need a ground campaign. So let's stop and think about it. How many fucking countries has he bombed since he's been back in office? Just in his second term, how many has it been? He's bombed fishing boats from Venezuela and Trinidad and Tobago and Colombia. He did regime change in Venezuela. He bombed Yemen and Somalia and Nigeria and Ecuador, on top of threatening Greenland, Panama, Canada, Cuba, Mexico. Okay? He said he stopped 8 wars. The motherfucker started 8 wars. A new war seemingly every single week. And here he is going, maybe a ground invasion. Maybe we'll do that. Oh, my days. From no new wars to new wars all the time. How about that? Let's do more new wars. Oh, my days.
Of other people that will do the ground campaign for us. But we already hit Karg Island, as you know, twice. Even 3 times. I said, hit everything but the oil. Just leave that little area from 25 yards out. Leave that little area. Don't touch the oil. Because I don't want that in terms of the world economy.
Yeah, and he also wants to do with Iran what he did with Venezuela, which is just go in there and steal their oil, steal their natural resources. He wants to do that with Iran, and it's just difficult because they're prepared for this. They've been preparing for decades for this. When Donald Trump was looking at half-naked teenagers running Miss Teen USA and bragging about going into their dressing rooms and watching them change, okay, the fredophile that he is. When Trump was doing that, Iran was preparing for this exact moment.
You know, it's a chunk of the world economy, so we haven't hit that. At some point we could. But I think it's unlikely. As far as taking it is concerned, if we degrade them far enough and deep enough back, I would do that.
Oh, my days, bro. This is like government by 14-year-old boy fantasy. Like he's playing motherfucking Call of Duty or some shit. Like, oh yeah, I'm just going to go take their fucking oil island. No big deal. they would get their ass cheeks handed to them so thoroughly. It would be so over, bro. All right, then how about this one? The Fox News reporter, to everybody's surprise, actually asked a half-decent question here about the carpet bombing, the triple tapping of a little girl's elementary school in Iran that killed about 160 kids, okay? And he's asked about, hey, you guys said you were going to investigate that. What's up with that investigation, bro? Listen to this. This is infuriating.
Will you commit to releasing the findings of this investigation?
I don't think anybody's going to ever be able to say what happened there, because if they don't know by now, and as of a couple of weeks ago they didn't know, and while things like that happen in war, there are missiles flying all over the place, and I don't know how anybody could say that we shot it.
Translation, we did the attack, and we did it on purpose. And, you're never going to know who did it. You're never going to know who did it. Who can figure it out? There's missiles flying everywhere. Yeah, who could figure out who attacked something in Iran as the U.S. and Israel were bombing Iran? Couldn't be the U.S. and Israel, could it? No, I'm sure it was Botswana that attacked the Iranian school. No, I'm sure it was Greenland or Malaysia that bombed the Iranian school. No, I'm sure it was like a ragtag biker gang in Iran that somehow got high-tech weaponry and triple-tapped a little girl's school. I'm sure. Definitely wasn't you. Definitely wasn't Israel. Definitely wasn't the axis of Epstein. These people, I'm telling you, this is government by mob boss. This is a mobocracy. This is be ashamed if something happened. Be ashamed if something happened to your place here. That's what this is. They bombed it. They bombed it on purpose. They triple tapped it. Why? Because that's a school, a little girl's elementary school, but the little girls who went there were kids of the IRGC regime. And so they decided we're going to teach a lesson to these people that there are no depths we wouldn't go to defeat you, including massacring your little babies. This was on purpose. Ladies and gentlemen, Donald J. Trump should be in prison. He should be in prison. This guy should be in The Hague. Best case scenario, life in prison. Worst case scenario, I can't even say what actually should happen because I'd get my ass banned on YouTube in an instant. But the fact of the matter is, these people are depraved. They are absolutely vile and wretched. They are deranged and demented. Okay, this guy should be nowhere near power. Nowhere near power. I've said it before, I'll say it again. He is not fit to manage a fucking Arby's, never mind be the most powerful man in the world. More though, because here he goes, casually saying, maybe we'll do some more war crimes and some genocide next week. That's what comes next.
I would do that.
Do you anticipate that the strikes we're seeing this week against Iran will expand? Are you considering hitting energy targets or other locations inside of Iran?
I'll save the energy targets for last, but ultimately we'll hit energy targets, yeah.
Literally just announcing the end of modern society as we know it. Casually announcing the end of civilization as we know it. By the way, we are the worst positioned to deal with such a world. If you look at China, they've been rapidly moving toward green and renewable technology. They have the BYD cars, the electric cars that are just absurdly better than fucking Teslas and the electric cars we have here. They have been preparing for a world without fossil fuels. We have not. These idiots have been doubling down and tripling down and quadrupling down on fossil fuel, like people who would double down on the Morse code machine when the telephone came out, or the horse and buggy when the fucking Model T came out. That's how stupid we are. He's going, maybe we'll destroy the energy too. You're like, it's literally like announcing, hey, maybe we'll do suicide. Maybe we'll do national suicide. How about that? National suicide, anyone? Talking about it like it's a reasonable thing, or like anybody's better off as a result of it. Totally unfit. Where the fuck is the impeachment? Where the fuck is the impeachment? I don't get it. If Barack Obama casually went out there and said, maybe we'll commit more war crimes. Maybe we'll, do genocide. Maybe we'll bomb more of their schools. Maybe we'll bomb all their energy. Because then in response, they go after all the Gulf Arab states' energy.
But ultimately, we'll hit energy targets, yeah. But we're going to hit them very hard tonight. We're going to hit them very hard tomorrow night. We're going to hit them very hard the night after.
He actually sounds like a cartoon villain here, the way he talks. He actually sounds like a cartoon villain. This is what a cartoon villain sounds like. This is what a bad guy in a movie sounds like.
We're going to hit them very hard tomorrow night. We're going to hit them very hard the night after. And then next week it gets really bad for them because next week comes the power plants. Next week comes the bridges. We're going to knock out all their power plants. We're going to knock out all their bridges unless they get to the table and negotiate.
I really want you to think about how sick this is, man. there's going to come a day where the U.S. is not a superpower, right? And when that day comes, there's going to be some other country that is a superpower, that has a lot of money, a lot of weapons, and a lot of power, okay? And a lot of standing in the world. I want you to imagine the leader of that country says about us over here, minding our business, not doing anything to anybody. And they say, we're going to bomb their power plants. We're going to bomb their bridges. We're going to bomb all of their energy infrastructure. Maybe they, I don't know, say triple tapped one of our schools and killed a whole bunch of little kids. Let's say about 160 of them. Could you imagine how we would feel and how we would act in a scenario like that? Where another country, we're minding our business, another country goes, let's just knock out all of their infrastructure. Make it so they're plunged into darkness and are thrown back to the dark ages in a motherfucking instant, like it's medieval times in this bitch. Okay? Let's make it so they have no oil, they have no gas, they can't fill their cars, they can't go anywhere, there's no food getting to the stores, there's civilizational collapse. We're sitting here minding our motherfucking business, and some other country announces, how about we commit war crime after war crime, atrocity after atrocity, genocide. How would we react to that? It is hard to even tap into that mindset, because once you do, you start getting filled with boiling rage and hatred at the disgusting, depraved lunatic who would think for a second that it's acceptable to act like that and to bomb innocent people and bomb infrastructure like that. But that's who we're dealing with. And he says it so motherfucking casually, bro. Like it's nothing. So if Trump does this, bombs all the Iranian infrastructure, the energy, the fucking bridges, all that shit, Iran will obliterate Qatar's remaining liquid natural gas trains, which will leave the entire world with no liquid natural gas from Qatar for about a decade. That's also where a significant portion of the helium comes from for microchip fabrication, MRI medical imaging equipment, mass spec labs, and more. So Trump is threatening to basically commit an act of war against the entire human race. The entire human race. Like I said, I'm not being hyperbolic when I say he's casually floating, let's just destroy all of human civilization in one fell swoop because I'm a fucking jackass that can't acknowledge I lost. Trump has stated 106 times that he defeated Iran. Trump has stated 95 times that Iran is destroyed. Trump has stated 88 times that a deal is imminent. Trump has stated 75 times that the Strait of Hormuz is open. Fact, this serial liar has achieved nothing yet. He's just playing with the stock market. Elect a clown, expect a circus. And then finally, let's throw it back to this clip. This was in the White House back on the 13th, okay? And listen to what he says here. And try to read between the lines and understand what he's really getting at when he says this. Here we go.
You think a deal is still possible? You think they'll return to that?
Yeah, I think a deal is possible, sure, I do.
But Mr. President, you noted the United States is bombing Iran again. I mean, you've been bombing Iran for months now. Is this just the new normal for the American people?
Well, we're in Vietnam for 19 years. We're here for 4 months.
What do you think he's actually saying when he says that? What he's saying is, shut the fuck up, get off my ass. We were in Vietnam for 19 years. So theoretically, if I'm in fucking Iran for 18 years and change, I'm still better off than when we went to Vietnam. So it's not as bad as that. So how about everybody deal with it? That's what he's saying there. Get off my ass, shut the fuck up, give me leeway, let me commit war crimes, let me make horrible decisions. And if I'm there for 18 and a half years, you know what? You should still know your role and shut your fucking mouth. That's what he's saying there. That's what he's saying. No more forever wars. I'm the anti-war candidate. No new wars, except all the fucking new ones I just started in this second term, which roughly amount to 8. Probably more, depending on how you count them. Okay? Atrocious. Get this man out of the White House. I'm tired of having to state the obvious and the basic truth. History is watching. They will look back on this moment and they will go, why wasn't every single person in the country as outraged as Kyle was on this? Get this man the fuck out of there. I don't see one hundredth the resistance that this moment requires. Let's wakey.
Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.
It is exceedingly rare that I can come out here and give you guys good news, but I am happy to announce, for once, I do have a little bit of good news for you. Now, understand this is conditional. So, in other words, this is subject to change with time, because this fight is not over yet, but let me show you this. Look at this. Breaking. Senate Democrats, under the leadership of Chris Van Hollen and Bernie Sanders, unite to block the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, from moving forward because of its provisions to deepen U.S.-Israeli military and intel relations. This is remarkable and further evidence the U.S. is moving away from Israel. Okay, let me show you this. A great development. The Senate voted against the NDAA. It was 50 to 46. They needed 60 votes. It was 50 to 46. It denied Israel a merger with the U.S. And here's the most important part. The 46 who voted in favor should face charges for treason. Okay? They should face charges for treason. And actually, I think this guy slightly misunderstands. I think it was the 50 that voted in favor, but they needed 60, right? So, and by the way, would you like to take a guess which party they belong to? Would you like to take a guess? Virtually every Republican. In fact, I don't know the exact numbers, but like, did Rand Paul break? I'm not sure if he broke. You guys can put it in the comment section below. But the overwhelming majority of Republicans literally voted for something, the textbook definition of treason. So Israel knows, understand why this is happening. Israel knows that, oh shit, Americans hate us now. Oh shit, we're on borrowed time, getting endless money and endless weapons from the U.S. So what their grand plan is they have Netanyahu going out there now and saying, we don't even want money from the U.S. We don't even want weapons from the U.S. We're a big boy nation. We can handle ourselves. And it's a PR move, right? It's a PR move because ultimately they're trying to rush through right now a way to get their claws into our military and our intelligence systems where it becomes impossible to break up with them. It is literally the Peter Thiel strategy from Palantir, where you give them a contract, you open up the door to them, they get so embedded deeply within our government systems that even if a president who means well comes in there and tries to break up with Palantir, Peter Thiel says, that's impossible. We are so deeply embedded in the U.S. government, and we have all the information and the data already that you can't break up with us. You are stuck with us. This is the exact same thing that Israel is doing. This is a U.S. military, Israeli military. It's a Mossad takeover of our military, forcing intelligence sharing. And this is a hostile power that doesn't have our best interests in mind. Could you imagine somebody tried this with, I don't know, pick a random country that's theoretically our enemy. If there was somebody who said, we're going to merge the Russian military and Russian intelligence with the U.S. military and U.S. intelligence, you actually would have people screaming, this is fucking treason. This is unacceptable. This is like an attempt to subvert a nation from within, to take away its sovereignty, to take away its independence. But it happens with Israel. Barely mentioned on mainstream media. Barely fucking mentioned on mainstream media. But again, shout out to Bernie Sanders. Shout out to Chris Van Hollen. You have no idea how important it is that they did this. Now, here's the thing, though. This was also blocked, not just for that reason. This was also blocked because it's like over $1 trillion being given to the military-industrial complex to continue the illegal war against Iran. And so the argument was, Trump said to Congress, okay, we're restarting the war against Iran, so restart the 60-day clock when it comes to the War Powers Act. That was basically what he was saying there. And so the Democratic senators were like, no, fuck that. Like, we're against you continuing this war against Iran. So really, it's a twofold reason why they're blocking it. Now, here's the thing, though. The NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, is typically viewed as a must-pass bill because you don't fund the military at all if you don't pass it, right? So the question is now, well, what is going to be taken out of the NDAA and what is going to be put into the NDAA? One thing everybody should insist on. In fact, I would say call your fucking senators right this second and tell them no to the part of the bill that merges the U.S. military and the Israeli military. That is outright treason, and we will remember who voted for it. Tom Cotton was the fucking co-sponsor. He should be in prison today for this. Today. By the way, look how much money he gets from the Israel lobby. I'm sure you'll see some horrifying stuff there as well. But we need not only that taken out of the bill, but obviously we need to strip this thing down because, I mean, it shouldn't be a fucking penny for this illegal war against Iran. First, Trump came out and said, oh, we need $25 billion. Then they upped it to $67 billion. Now Trump's going, we need $350 billion. So they want $350 billion for this illegal war on top of $1.5 trillion that he wants for the overall Pentagon budget. All at the same time, he's literally saying, I don't care about Americans' financial situation. We can't afford daycare. We can't afford healthcare because we got to pay for this war. It's a sick, sick joke. It is a disgusting, disgusting joke. But listen, I'm a big believer in providing incentives for people. So the Democrats who voted the right way on this, all the credit in the world to them. In fact, you should call them and thank them if your senator voted to block this. Tell them to stand strong. Tell them hell no on merging the U.S. military and the Israeli military. And also hell no on funding this war any further. Do not fund this fucking war. Not a penny for this war. This is an illegal war of aggression against an innocent country that didn't fucking attack us. Enough of this bullshit. We can find trillions of dollars in our fucking couch cushions to bomb kids in schools, but we can't find the money for universal health care or free college or a living wage. I mean, what a sick, sick joke this is, man. It's disgusting. While we're on the topic, let me show you this as well. Democrat Hakeem Jeffries has said he will oppose the bid to cut off U.S. aid to Israel. So there's a slightly separate topic. There's a Massey Amendment which cuts off U.S. aid to Israel. And you have a whole bunch of Democrats have come out and said, I'm in favor of cutting off all U.S. aid to Israel. They've sensed the shifting opinion among the Democratic base. I believe it's nearly 80% of the Democratic base thinks Israel committed a genocide and wants to cut off U.S. money and weapons to Israel. So it's like, it's not really up in the air. It's a very black and white issue among the Democratic base. Democrats are united on saying fuck no to genocide and fuck no to more weapons to the people doing the genocide. But here you have Democratic leadership, Hakeem Jeffries coming out and saying, no, I oppose the attempt to cut off U.S. aid to Israel. Why? Well, you can see right here. Oh, look at that. He's taken $1.7 million from the Israel lobby. I wonder if that has something to do with it. I Now, I don't have the exact numbers right now. By the time this drops, we may know the exact number, though, to be fair. But I think their speculation, it's in the high 200s or maybe over 300 Democrats that are going to say, no, we want to cut off all U.S. aid to Israel, which is phenomenal. But make no mistake about it. This is betrayal from Hakeem Jeffries. It's absolute betrayal. And you have J Street, right? By the way, step down, Hakeem Jeffries. Step down. Like you're in no position to be the leader of the Democratic Party. You don't represent the Democratic base. Like, this is not like a wacky concept or anything. The Democratic leader should represent the will of the Democratic base, right? But then you also have this group, J Street, which is liberal Zionists. And J Street released a statement where they basically said, we're with the people who want to cut off U.S. aid to Israel, but we're also standing with the people who want to continue U.S. aid to Israel. So we have no morals, we have no core, we believe in absolutely nothing. You're just announcing, yeah, whatever, we're for good things and bad things. What the fuck is that? It really starts, the more you look at it, the more it starts to look like J Street's whole existence is to like take the air out of the tires of real meaningful resistance to Israel, right? And to redirect all of that energy into, instead of being anti-Zionist and being against ethno-states full stop, make them liberal Zionists, where you still support the ethno-state and the logic that ends up leading to genocide and leading to apartheid. So that is fucking disgusting and unacceptable. Listen, every single Democrat who doesn't support the Massey Amendment should be primaried. Every single Democrat who turns their back on their voters should be fucking primaried. This is not, we're not asking anymore. We're demanding, okay? If you suck up to Israel, if you cuck yourself to Israel, you are not a Democrat. You are not welcome in the Democratic Party. There's all this talk about Big Tent. You know what Big Tent means? Big Tent means Steve wants the minimum wage to be $15 an hour, and Dave wants the minimum wage to be $20 an hour. You're both welcome in the tent, okay? That's what that means. Having a big tent means there's a Democrat that's running in this rural-ass county in a red state, and he is going to be slightly less in favor of gun control than a Democrat in a blue state. That's what a big tent means. A big tent doesn't mean we have people who hate genocide and people who love genocide. That's not a big tent. This is a basic moral test. This is a basic moral issue. And unfortunately, Democratic leadership has completely failed it. But the good news is many Democrats in the caucus have passed it with flying colors. And like I said, Senate Democrats just blocked this NDAA, which tried to merge the U.S. and Israeli military. By the way, isn't it crazy that like this is how low the bar is? That now we like are actively cheering and we're excited because they weren't able to get the treason bill through. They weren't able to get the let's bomb more Iranian little schoolgirls to death bill through. I mean, just insanity, absolute fucking insanity. But while we're on the topic of good news, I will end this segment by letting you know there's one other little piece of good news. The House passed the permanent daylight saving bill, which basically means that we would stop changing the clocks and we would keep the clocks permanently on daylight saving time, which is just a fancy way of saying it will stay lighter later throughout the year. I fucking love this. This would mean that in the winter, the sun wouldn't set at fucking 4 o'clock in the afternoon anymore, right? It would set at 5 o'clock, the earliest. And so here's the thing. The Senate already passed this bill in a previous session, okay? I don't know all the specifics and the way it works, but my guess is they're saying this new bill that got through the House has to also get through the Senate. So I guess they have to repass basically the same bill that they had passed previously. But the House passed it overwhelmingly, by the way. The Senate will probably pass it, okay? And then Trump has said he'll sign it. So, you know, there are many people on the right who would probably look at me and call me a hack for the simple reason that I've repeatedly stated there's not a single fucking thing Trump has done that's positive in his second term. At least in the first term, I could point to, you know, pardoning Alice Johnson, doing the First Step Act. There were certain things where it's like, okay, I'll take that. That's good. He banned bump stocks on guns. There were a number of things. Okay, those are good. I'll give credit where credit is due. There's been nothing in the second term. Literally nothing. Nothing at all. Nothing. Zero. Zilch. Nada. Okay? This would be the first thing where I would give him credit. If the House already passed it, if the Senate passes it and Trump signs it and we get rid of daylight saving time, that is a massive, massive W. And people who face whatever they call seasonal depression these days, I know it has a different term that they use, but people who face that would feel a lot better. So, and also all the statistics show, all the numbers show that, like, if you stop changing the clocks, there's societal upsides all over the place, right? There's, like, you know, all sorts of problems happen when you change the clocks. The only downside is people say, oh, it'll be a little darker in the morning when kids wait for school, you know, at the school bus stop. Yeah, I can understand that might be an issue, but there are just way more issues with changing the clock. So we'll see. Hopefully that gets through as well. But shocker, I know. At least we have some good news here. But keep the pressure up. Keep the pressure up. Keep the pressure up on your senators and tell them no to this fucking NDAA bullshit, no to funding the Iran war, and fuck no to merging the U.S. and Israeli military. What kind of psychotic shit is this?
Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.
All right, y'all, we got some big news here, but Donald Trump is openly panicking as he's taken 3 major losses in court in just the past week or so. Now, if we go back a little further than a week, you'll remember a judge basically directly ordered that Trump's name has to come off the Kennedy Center. Right? He shoved his name on there, literally built the sign and put it up. And then a judge said, what the fuck are you doing? They literally sent the workers to pull down his name. And they did. But then Trump crashed out and said, well, if my name can't be on there, Kennedy's name won't be on there either. So he put up a big tarp that, like, blocks the name, the Kennedy Center. Fucking pathetic. What a sad, sick little man he is, right? But that was one loss. And that was a harbinger of things to come, bro. Because now, what we're just learning this week is the following. Take a look at this. A federal judge has tossed out the Trump Justice Department's lawsuit to access West Virginia's unredacted voter rolls, marking 13 straight court losses for the department's floundering effort to seize sensitive voter data from every state. Here's why this is so important. This is a crucial part of their attempt to steal the midterms and steal the 2028 election. It's a strategy called ballot purging and ballot spoiling. Okay. And in order to do that, they would need all of the voter roll data that each state has respectively. Okay. And some states, some Republican states were voluntarily handing over all of their data. But then there were all the blue states and like even a handful of red states and swing states were like, no, you have no right to demand that. The federal government is supposed to have no say over our elections. And so the Trump regime was suing over this. And they lost 13 straight cases where the judges are going, you have no right to this voter roll data. And we know you're probably up to no fucking good with that shit. So no, you're banned from having it. Let's remember, there was a judge, I forget which state it was, I want to say it was North Carolina, but I'm not sure. There was a judge who ruled against Trump getting the voter roll data for that state. And then like a month later, their house burned down. And Stephen Miller was targeting them on Twitter also when that ruling came down. So this has been genuinely a fight at the heart of our democracy here, where we are teetering on the motherfucking brink. And this is, a rare instance where the judges sort of across the board are going, no, go fuck yourself. Now, I don't know. Is it possible that they appeal and it goes to the Supreme Court and then they rule wrong? I don't know. I'm not a legal expert. However, 13 straight court losses on this very important issue of voter roll data is a super big deal. It's a giant deal. Okay, so this is tremendous, and it's going to be harder for them to do their shenanigans as a direct result of this, okay? We also have this. E. Jean Carroll has finally been paid $5.6 million by Donald Trump. This payment plus interest is what Carroll was owed after Trump was found liable for sexual abuse and defamation. So, Trump exhausted all of his fucking appeals in this case. Remember, it was a court in New York that found he was liable for sexual assault. Technically, the term in New York is grape. However, Trump tried to sue a reporter for saying it's grape. Really, he basically put his fingers against her will in her body in naughty places in a department store. I believe it was in the 1980s. And under New York law, I believe it technically is grape. But Trump sued over a reporter using that term. So whether you want to call it sexual assault, whether you want to call it grape, either way, it's atrocious. There was zero consent. She says there was zero consent. She won the case. She won the civil case here. He has to pay out. He stonewalled nonstop. He kept stonewalling. He appealed and he appealed more and he appealed more. Finally, he appealed all the way to the motherfucking Supreme Court, which is a joke, okay? And the Supreme Court was like, we're not fucking hearing this. So the lower ruling stood. So E. Jean Carroll has actually been paid the $5.6 million from Trump, which should be a wake-up call to everybody that, oftentimes this man has blown off at least 57 court orders. There's probably way more than that now. This guy is truly an authoritarian. He listens to fucking nobody. But in some rare instances, you hit him with such an overwhelming victory that he feels like there's no other way out, but I'm going to quietly try to pay this shit. So massive, massive victory for E. Jean Carroll, massive victory for truth and rule of law. The only sad thing is this, unfortunately, was a civil case and not a criminal case. If it was a criminal case, it would actually be time in prison, although now, since he's president, they never jail a president. You can only impeach a president, not try a president criminally while he's in office. You guys all know that. But, this guy, he's atrocious. And this is on top of, as you know, he was found liable for tax fraud and insurance fraud and business fraud. This is all stuff that's been proven. Again, that's civil case, not criminal case. He was charged with 91 crimes overall, 34-time convicted felon. This guy has some nerve to ever pretend like I'm the law and order guy and, Democrats are soft on crime. Motherfucker, you are the criminal. You are the criminal. I think you're pretty soft on yourself, personally, but massive win for E. Jean Carroll here, and I only wish that number was more. She deserves every single goddamn penny for having to deal with this psychotic man. By the way, remember, didn't Trump also open up some fucking bullshit investigation into her recently? This is what happens. After you thoroughly destroy him and defeat him, he crashes out, he panics, and he tries to use, power in the most unjust ways imaginable to try to ruin your life. And I'm sure she's still going to be dealing with bullshit moving forward. But the fact of the matter is she got the money, and that's an important thing there. Okay. Also, let me show you this. BBC is saying the following. U.S. judge voids Donald Trump's $1.8 billion settlement with the IRS that gave him immunity from tax audits. So this was, as you all know, the $1.776 billion that he was trying to pay January 6th terrorists and his cronies and his family, right? That's what this is. And it was all a ruse. He was suing his own IRS for $10 billion, then the IRS settled with him for just $1.776 billion. And it was another way that he's shaking down the taxpayers. It's another way that he's looting the treasury. It's another way he's paying off his criminal friends to, in the future, do more crimes for him. That's what this is. It is one of the most disgusting violations of power I've ever seen in my life. This is there is a developing country dictator who's looking at this and fucking blushing, okay? But listen to this. A U.S. judge has voided a legal agreement between President Trump and federal agencies that granted him immunity from tax audits and allowed his administration to create a since-abandoned $1.8 billion anti-weaponization fund. I forgot about that. He also, as part of the agreement, said, I can never be audited for anything ever. So just green lighting that he can commit as many, financial crimes as he wants. Never pay any taxes. Literally just allowing himself through the power of the state to commit crime after crime after crime. Okay? They say the fund intended to compensate individuals claiming they were unfairly targeted by the government was unveiled in May in exchange for Trump dropping his personal $10 billion lawsuit against the Internal Revenue Service. What a sick joke this is. But on Monday, U.S. District Judge Kathleen Williams said the suit was filed for an improper purpose. By the way, as we read this, I'm thinking to myself, the low IQ Trump baboons who go out there and say, he doesn't take a salary, man. He loves America. He doesn't take a salary, man. Meanwhile, he's like robbing taxpayers for billions of dollars. Here's another way in which he robbed the taxpayers for billions of dollars. He took $10 billion from U.S. taxpayers for his Board of Peace. Remember that? It's supposed to be above the UN. Meanwhile, they're literally just using it to raise a bunch of money from billionaires, create a slush fund, run out the back door with all the money while pretending like they're, doing something good for the people of Gaza. It's utter nonsense, but it's another way in which he's robbing taxpayers. They say she also referred a Trump lawyer to state authorities to determine whether ethics rules were violated and disciplinary action is required. In the ruling, Williams cast Trump's lawsuit, which he, two of his sons, and the Trump Organization filed in 2026, as far from a dispute between two opposing sides. Instead, she described it as more of an action carried out by lawyers with ties to Trump and those who claim to have been government targets. Williams wrote the lawsuit was never about a party seeking judicial resolution of a legal issue or a factual dispute between Trump and the IRS, which he controls as president. She also described the settlement as a bid to provide some legitimacy to an agreement to confer immunity to people and entities affiliated with the president and to earmark billions of dollars from American taxpayers and redress grievances not defined by law. The decision also prevents those involved with the case, including Trump and his sons, from referring to the settlement or citing its terms in future legal proceedings. This, in turn, could mean the IRS can move forward with future audits into Trump's tax claims. So, again, this is a big deal. Basically, they were trying to get away with some of the most obvious crimes of all time, and a judge smacked them down instantly and said, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. I'll repeat this again, man. These people belong in prison. All of them belong in prison. They are a sick, pathetic joke. That's what they are. And, the stuff they have the nerve to try to get away with, man, it is astonishing. If Barack Obama did 1/100th the shit that they did, not only would he be impeached, he actually would be locked up. And when it came to the impeachment, Democrats would cross the aisle to vote with Republicans to get his ass out of there. But Trump does it. All the Republicans do is circle the wagons. All the Republicans do is suck him off and protect him, coddle his baby nuts. It's the saddest thing I've ever seen in my life. There's not a single man among them. It's so gross. But now 3 major court losses for Trump here. 3 major L's that he's taken. And I also want to show you this because there's some hope for the future, ladies and gentlemen. There's some hope for the future. Look at this. Politico says, Jack Smith obtained text messages from 44 members of Congress. Senate Judiciary Chair Chuck Grassley reiterated plans to call the former special counsel to testify before his committee. Former special counsel Jack Smith obtained text messages that 44 members of Congress sent to senior White House officials during the final weeks of Trump's first term. Chuck Grassley revealed Tuesday. Holy shit. My guess is there's about the number of crimes that these people committed were probably in the hundreds. And Jack Smith has access to all of it. And he doesn't fuck around. He's serious. If you are a Democrat and you are running for office, you should say publicly, my attorney general is going to be Jack Smith. You should say publicly that. Because Jack Smith is not fucking around. He's serious. He basically said, I had Trump dead to rights before Trump killed the case. Right? He had him. He had him on the fake elector slate, among other things. So one of the main things we should do is have Jack Smith run roughshod through all the MAGA regime criminals because they need it. They need it. All these criminals need to be locked up, and there's one person who I trust to actually deliver on that, and it's Jack Smith.
Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.
So MAGA Mike Johnson slipped up and said the quiet part out loud here, and if I'm being honest with you, this should terrify you. This should scare the shit out of you, what he openly admits to here. So as you all know, the Republicans are desperately trying to get more money for the Pentagon. I mean, they already blew through, $1 trillion budget, failed 8 audits in a row, can't account for 63% of their money. It's basically like a massive slush fund for the Epstein class. They build a bunch of stuff that's outdated that gets wrecked by drones. But they're begging for more money because they want to continue this illegal war against Iran. But he is going to accidentally tell the truth here and tell you what some of this money is also going to go for. Okay? Pay close attention. Listen to what he says. Here we go.
There's been a lot of discussion about what's going to be included in this reconciliation bill. Can you walk through how important and how imminent it is that the Pentagon needs additional funding and what that number precisely is going to be in the Republican bill?
So the question was, can you list the specifics of what the request is for the Pentagon? We've seen it's over $350 billion as a request. And some of this is transformational kind of funding that will help us change the dynamic of the Department of War and make it more efficient and effective. It's already the greatest fighting force on the planet, not even close. But there are some ideas, a real vision on how to improve that even further, to bolster that. You've heard the president talk about how he wants to effectively double the funding for national defense. Look, we live in dangerous times. We're fighting communism on our own shores, and we're fighting evil terrorists and tyrants around the world. And we have to be able to protect our national security. So this is not the place to get into the details of that.
Quote, we're fighting communism on our own shores, he says. We're fighting communism on our own shores. In the midst of a conversation about $350 billion for the military. If you connect the dots there, what that seems to imply is we're going to use our military domestically, which is illegal, which is what Trump has tried to do a number of times, but here he's just saying it. We're fighting communism on our own shores. This is at the same time, mind you, that some anti-ICE protesters were sentenced to years in prison. Some of them literally just were handing out pamphlets. They were handing out pamphlets, and they got sent to prison for years. This is insane what we're talking about here. The goal is label anybody and everybody who dissents from the regime as Antifa or as terrorist. And now use not only the ICE budget, which is bigger than most militaries around the world, use ICE to domestically go after people, shoot them, throw them in concentration camps, but now also use the military. He's just admitting it. He's just saying it. So don't say nobody warned you about this, because you were warned about this, and you were warned repeatedly. Ken Klippenstein did phenomenal reporting on this thing called NSPM 7. And NSPM 7 is a whole of government mindset change, right? It used to be back in the day, oh, we're fighting the Soviet Union. So all hands on deck in the federal government to take on the Soviet Union. Then during the war on terror, it became terrorism and Al-Qaeda, right? The new directive is dissonance, is liberals and leftists. That's the new memorandum, okay? And under NSPM 7, they are very open about the fact that if you're anti-American, whatever that means, you're going to be targeted. You're going to be spied on. Your rights are going to be taken away. If you're anti-capitalist, if you're anti-Christian, if you're an extremist on migration, which simply means, you know, you don't want a fucking police state and you don't want to throw people in a detention camp because they've been here for 4 years and they work every day but they don't have a permit, right? They say if you're an extremist on race, in other words, if you supported Black Lives Matter, if you stand up against police brutality, if you're an extremist on gender, so in other words, if you accept that trans people exist and you think they should get health care, they consider you a terrorist or adjacent to a terrorist, and they want to take away your rights. ICE is being used in this way, and now the U.S. military, they're floating using the U.S. military to, quote, fight communism on our shores. Their words, not mine. This is insane. This is insane. So they're very clear about who their enemies are. When will people wake up and realize who your real enemy is? Your enemy, it's the billionaires, it's the fascists, and the warmongers. And you wrap that all up in a pretty little package called MAGA, okay? And they're not playing around, bro. They are not playing around. The difference between us and them is that, yes, I hate them. Yes, I despise them. But at the end of the day, I want them to have health care. I want the criminals to go to prison. Don't get it twisted. The war criminals, the billionaire criminals, the MAGA criminals, they all need to go to prison. But if you're a voter, if you're a regular person, I want you to have health care. I want you to have education. I want you to have higher wages. I want you to be in a union. I don't want you to have to fucking, slave with every decision your fucking boss makes. Okay? That's the difference, is I might not like you. In fact, I might hate you, but I want you to have a decent life. What MAGA Mike is doing here is letting you know what he thinks of us. No, give me $350 billion for the military to crack down on communism here at home. The new Red Scare is here. The new McCarthyism is here. And forget, it's not even just leftists as such. It's also liberals who they will just define as leftists because they see no difference between us. And they're going to throw the fucking book at you. They're going to throw the book at you. They want to take away your rights. You know how people in their coalition, like Pete Kegsbreath's pastor, who's out there saying women shouldn't have the right to vote. I mean, this is a sick joke. This is all a sick, disgusting, pathetic joke. But they're letting you know what the plan is. They're letting you know what the goal is. They're letting you know what this money is for. And there's no excuses anymore. You can't hide anymore. Not a single fucking Democrat should give a single vote to anything in their agenda, because everything is going to be used for nefarious purposes. They're admitting it. They're saying the quiet part out loud here. This is the accidentally telling the truth part. Jesus Christ, man. Jesus Christ. And it's all purposeful. If you don't think it's purposeful, go listen to Stephen Miller talk for 7 seconds and you'll walk away going, oh yeah, this is a plan. They're doing it on purpose. They're doing it on purpose. $350 billion to police communism on our shores, fight communism on our shores. And make no mistake about it. Yes, they consider Zoran Mamdani a communist, Abdul El Sayed a communist. Yes, they consider any left-flank Democrats that win, or even centrist Democrats that win, they're communists. And this is all going to be used as a pretext to try to crack down, steal the midterm, steal the 2028 election, militarize against dissent. They've already done it 1,000 times. Trump has a war on free speech in this country, a war against the press, a war against protesters. They've already tried to deport people who made jokes about Charlie Kirk after he died. They've already, used the power of the state to go after anti-genocide, pro-Palestine protesters. They're not messing around, bro. They're not messing around. They mean it. They mean business. When I tell you they're going after dissidents, they're going after people who are actually trying to make a difference in this world, to make this world a better place, I mean it. And what are they doing? They're going to use all the power at their disposal to crack down on you, try to ruin your life, try to spy on you, try to take away your rights. $350 billion to say we already live in a police state, because they're asking for, they gave over $100 billion for ICE, for a domestic thug gangster army, right? A paramilitary, a Gestapo force. And now they want $1.5 trillion for the Pentagon on top of another $350 billion for right now. And all the while, Trump's out there like, I don't care about, Americans' financial situation. He's out there like, we can't afford daycare. We can't afford to do these things. They're actively kicking 18 million people off Medicaid as they're spending trillions on weapons of death that are going to be deployed against fellow Americans. Man, it is rough, bro. It is rough. It is very atrocious, to say the least.
Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.
So it's not exactly a secret that Gavin Newsom wants to run for president in 2028, and he would like to be the Democratic nominee and the president of the United States. But it's also no secret that his political instincts aren't exactly the greatest. He always seems to be a step and a half behind where the party is. And it's very apparent. I mean, at the same time Trump was ramping up his fascism, you had Gavin Newsom sitting around with Steve Bannon, who was slapping him across the face, and Charlie Kirk, who was slapping him across the face, and, Michael Savage, who was slapping him across the face. And he sat down with Ben Shapiro and said to Ben Shapiro, Israel's not committing a genocide. Not the best instincts on this man. He also was actively fighting a billionaire tax in California, and then he pretended to go out there, again, a step and a half behind everybody, went out there, months after it was already clear, years after it was already clear that the Democratic base is for a billionaire tax. And now he's trying to go, oh, yes, I'm in favor of a billionaire tax. And the tax he's in favor of is not even a real billionaire tax, not a wealth tax. It's like a fucking dodge that the billionaires themselves have floated as an alternative to the billionaire tax. So he's not slick. He's not slick. He's also, he's a relatively corporate Democrat, a centrist Democrat, but he's a chameleon. And so he's always, behind and then trying to play catch up, and then behind and then trying to play catch up. Well, here's another example of him being just behind. Okay, and this went viral, 1.8 million views on Twitter here. But he's asked about Israel and whether or not they're an apartheid state. And his answer is abysmal. Here we go.
There's been some headlines. I just want to clear this up. Yes or no, do you consider Israel an apartheid state?
I said that was directional as it relates to what Freeman was arguing about the annexation of the West Bank. So no, but in the context of his pursuit in the hard and the far right, I align with that concern and that thinking that was expressed very pointedly by Tom Freeman.
Yeah. So you think they're potentially on the path to becoming an apartheid state if they continue?
My biggest concern, my red flag, is Bibi Netanyahu, period, full stop. Mm-hmm. And his opposition to the two-state solution, how he is navigating his own domestic politics as it relates to placating the far right, thus the annexation concerns, how he's influencing events that are now out of our control, and we're not, we haven't even focused much on what's happening in southern Lebanon, issues there, intended and unintended consequences, the future of Gaza, the Board of Peace, which is about Trump and Witkoff and Jared Kushner getting their peace, if we can discuss that, and what happens to the future of the Middle East. And so, I've been very critical of him. And I say that as a guy who visited Bibi visited
Right after
Herzog,
October 7th.
right after October 7th, because of the relationship I've had, not only with the Jewish community here, but my relationship to the people of Israel. And so I've long supported the state of Israel.
That's a horrible answer. That's an atrocious answer. He's asked if Israel's an apartheid state, and he basically says no. This is an old trick, and everybody understands it now, and everybody's onto it now. But what he's expressing there is known as the one bad man theory of politics, right? You've heard of the great man theory of history, where it's like, oh, the reason why we've advanced so much is because every now and then you'll have these mega geniuses, the one great man that comes along and changes the course of history. Well, there's also the one bad man theory. And the one bad man theory is, oh, if we just get rid of Netanyahu, then everything will be better off, then everything will be fixed. Well, I got bad news for you. That is not remotely true. In fact, we showed video of Yair Lapid, who's supposed to be, the moderate opposition to Netanyahu, and he expressed he also supports a greater Israel plan. He also supports stealing the Middle East. And all he said is we just need to be more pragmatic about it. We can't be as, bloodthirsty and direct. We have to, take our time and do it slowly. So the idea that, oh, Netanyahu is the problem, it's not remotely true. It's just not even close to true. And listen, it is a dodge. Because the goal here is, oh, Netanyahu's out, right? I mean, he's old. He's not even going to live that much longer. But the idea is like, oh, once he's out, okay, then let's give Israel all the money. Let's give Israel all the weapons. Let's build new alliances and aid them in their greater Israel project. It is a not-so-slick trick in order to continue the status quo while pantomiming resistance. But you know what? I think people have learned now that this is weak sauce, that this is actual bullshit, that this is one of the dumbest positions you could take. Because anybody who's familiar with the inner workings of Israel and with the different factions inside Israel knows there is nobody that's on the table here that's an option that's actually on the left. It just doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. Naftali Bennett is a fucking psychopath. Yair Lapid is a fucking psychopath. They might have differences when it comes to the Supreme Court in Israel and differences when it comes to corruption or whatever, but ideologically, they're all hardcore Zionists. They all believe in the ethno-state project. They all want to expand the borders. They're all exterminationist. They all defend what happened in Gaza, the genocide in Gaza. They all are in favor of the mission creep and the pogroms in the West Bank to steal the West Bank also. They're all in favor of stealing South Lebanon, which is what just happened. And so it's just bullshit. So why is he doing this? Well, number one, Gavin Newsom, as I said, he's always slow. He's always like a step and a half or 2 steps behind where the actual party base is. That's point number one. But point number two is he's advertising here, hey, when I run for president, you guys will give me Zionist lobby money, right? You'll give me Israel lobby money, right? That's what he's advertising here because he knows there's a lot of fucking money in this, okay? Look at the race in Michigan right now. Haley Stevens versus Abdul El Sayed. Haley Stevens, she was losing by double digits for a very long time. Now, all of a sudden, she surged in some recent polls. She's in the lead. Well, why is that? Because she's getting a tremendous amount, tens of millions of dollars from the Israel lobby, okay? But also running these fake mailers that make it look like Obama endorsed her when Obama didn't endorse her. And that's getting her a lot of support among non-college educated Democrats and many black Democrats, right? So she's basically just lying and functionally getting away with it. And all of that is financed by the Israel lobby, who will stop at nothing to take down Abdul because Abdul is anti-genocide. Abdul is actually going to cut off the money and the weapons to Israel. And so when you look around, you realize very quickly there have been instances of us defeating the Israel lobby, no doubt about it, but then there's many instances where they still have a lot of money, they still have a lot of power, they can flex that muscle and let everybody know, hey, you can't fuck with us, right? And that's what we're witnessing here. Now Haley Stevens is leading because of that money. So I think, this operator is trying to split the difference. Gavin Newsom is a political operator, and he's trying to split the difference. He's trying to do the whole, oh yeah, no, totally, I'm critical of Israel, but really I'm critical of Benjamin Netanyahu, and he's the problem, and now let me explain why he's the problem. And trying to act like I'm critical while also signaling, but I love Israel, but you're not really an apartheid state. And that leaves the door open for Zionist lobby money, Israel lobby money when he actually runs for president. So that's what I think is going on here. But man, people are not fucking buying it even a little bit. 1.8 million views on this video. Gavin Newsom has just made himself unelectable. People actually think he's going to make it through a Democratic primary. He's just lost his chances at the presidency with that statement. Gavin Newsom wants all Palestinian Muslims exterminated. Newsom is pro-genocide. And it's a Track APAC thing. It says, warning, okay? Show them all this video, then ask them again. The Grape of Palestinian Prisoners, July 5th, 2024. And that guy became a national hero, by the way. The one who did the grape became a national hero. The DNC will die again if they back Newsom. We Californians know what a snake in the grass he really is. Done. There's zero tolerance for any type of support for the genocidal and nuclear Israeli entity. Instant disqualifier. It goes on, man. The overwhelming majority of these comments are absolutely negative. So he fucking asked for it. I told you guys that my main fear going into 2028 is that you'll have very centrist Democrats sort of pretend that they're us effectively. And since they have a lead in name recognition against other candidates, that might be enough to get them across the finish line. Well, I don't know. It's looking more and more like Gavin Newsom is not politically savvy enough to catch up to the times. And so he might end up disqualifying himself because of that. But, Kamala, for example, is sort of pretending to be us now and getting ahead of the times. And every poll now shows she's winning. So I believe my fear still stands, but as it pertains to Newsom, perhaps that is not the case. Kamala, I feel like, as a centrist, is pantomiming being us. Newsom is trying but failing. Never mind others who are going to do the same thing. But that's where we're at. If they don't start sounding like us, then there's no hope for them. And I would just rather have the real deal Holyfield in there, man. I really rather have somebody who actually means it and actually cares about this issue and actually is going to try to fix it. Instead of somebody, just pressing the buttons and saying the right things to try to get that power. So we have to be very vigilant moving forward, and we'll see what happens, but this is horrible, horrible answer from Newsom.
Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.
So this is fun. You have one of the leaders of DSA, Democratic Socialists of America, decided to go on Fox News. Bold to accept that invitation, by the way, and shout out to her for doing it because this is glorious. So this Democratic Socialist goes on Fox and really just, smacks the smug right off the face of this D-tier MAGA loser. You'll love to see it. Let's watch and we'll break it down. Here we go.
Democratic socialism gaining leeway here in New York. And as socialist ideas begin to sweep the nation, Democrat Governor Gavin Newsom is calling to unify all spectrums of the left to keep Democrats in office.
When I ran for mayor, just for what it's worth, I ran against a member of the Green Party, which was, had aspects of the DSA that we know it today. There's so many aspects of the debates and arguments today that are just deeply familiar, and I think it's a very healthy thing. I'm one of those Democrats that deeply believes in addition, not division. And so I want a Big Ten party. I want to win.
Our next guest has...
All right, let me just pause to point out, I don't like this. I don't like this. Because he's also said this about Joe Manchin, Kyrsten Sinema. Let me explain something to you. The Democratic Party is only as good as its most conservative Democrat. Because that conservative Democrat effectively has veto power over the legislative process. And what we saw is, when you talk about Joe Manchin, when you talk about Kyrsten Sinema, when you talk about today somebody like John Fetterman, it was Joe Manchin that tanked Build Back Better and only got us the Inflation Reduction Act. Now, that's better than nothing, but the Inflation Reduction Act was like 1/10 as good as Build Back Better, which was like transformational for the U.S. economy and the best piece of economic legislation since the New Deal, okay? So, no, if you have a big tent and you allow in these very conservative diet MAGA Democrats, what you're saying is, I am half MAGA. I am okay with half MAGA. And I'm not okay with that. I'm okay with 0% MAGA. How about that? Now, on the flip side, what he's doing here is strategic. He's trying to he would shiv DSA in the back so fucking quickly, but he understands he's got to play nice now. Why? Because they've won so many primaries that it's like, oh shit, they're a real force now. Fuck. That's what's actually going on in his head. Let's continue.
Has worked on dozens of Democratic Socialist campaigns and the co-chairs of the New York City DSA, the largest chapter of the Democratic Socialists in America. Grace Mauser joins us now. Grace, thank you for being here. And you heard Gavin Newsom there. I want to start with the remarkable success that Democratic Socialist candidates have had, not just here in New York, but across the nation, in Pennsylvania and Colorado and elsewhere. But when you hear establishment Democrats and others like Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer here in New York, it seems that you guys don't have room for them in your future.
I would argue the opposite in many ways. The minority.
I think she's being soft on purpose, given she's on Fox News and she's trying to put the moderate face forward. But I think behind the scenes, if you were to talk to her, she'd be like, yeah, we got to get rid of the diet MAGAs. Of course. Duh. Yeah, we got to get rid of Hakeem Jeffries. He just came out against cutting off all the weapons to Israel yesterday. That's just right wing. That's just genocidal. That's just MAGA shit. Okay? They're strategic, bro. I think DSA they're smart. They're strategic. They're not they don't let their ideology sort of override the using the correct pathway to actually get W's. You understand what I'm saying? Like get policy W's. Here we go. Let's keep going.
Leader Jeffries and people, other pundits who have made these comments, treat us as a hostile force. But the reality is now we're very serious about winning, which is why we often run in Democratic primaries. But we're also very serious about governing. And that means creating allyships, creating partnerships, building coalition with people who are excited about the type of economic populism that we put forward, and building allies like perhaps Governor Newsom, if he's interested in things like universal health care, reduced cost child care, affordable housing. These are things that we want to do because our primary goal is improving American lives.
And by the way, this strategy has borne fruit because look at Zoran. Everybody criticized Zoran, myself included, when he kind of went soft on Kathy Hochul and made an alliance with her. But what perhaps many of us didn't realize at the time is that he needed that alliance in order to get through, universal childcare and, some of his other major policy goals, which he's now succeeded on. But he needed her to do that. So, we all wanted him to be like, Viva la Revolution, and say, I'm going to be against every, establishment Democrat. But because he didn't do that, he was able to actually win on the policies. So, they've earned us giving them a little space to operate as they deem appropriate, because they have their eye on the prize, which is actually getting W's for people and getting the policies we want implemented.
Ultimately, at the foundation, there are so many Americans that hear the word socialism and they're afraid of that, Grace, because you have led Americans to believe that there's some effort to transform capitalism into socialism, to move from individualism to collectivism. Is that the goal?
First of all, I love how that question presupposes that everybody loves capitalism. Bro, I don't know if you've seen the polls lately, but young people like socialism more than capitalism. Democrats like socialism more than capitalism. Those days are gone where you just say capitalism and everybody's like, oh yeah, greatest system in the world. People are fucking struggling and they know why.
So many people, even those who might not yet identify as a socialist or are scared of socialism as a concept, understand that what's happening in our economy now is not working for them. They can't afford their house. They can't afford childcare. They can't afford education.
But they're trying to get to the American dream, even if they're struggling. And socialism's platform is contrary to the American dream, to individual opportunity. Is it not?
It's like trying to engage with a bonobo. But what about the American dream? I thought you hate the American dream. And I like the American dream. And the American dream is good and stuff, bro. And it's like capitalism and stuff, bro. Right? Meanwhile, people can't afford groceries. People can't afford gas. Everybody's renting. They have credit card bills out the wazoo. They're going bankrupt for medical bills. And in this guy's mind, he thinks they're going, boy, do I love the American dream. What American dream? It's dead. It's dead. The only way to bring it back is through socialism. Let's be serious.
In many ways, I think we're trying to look back at what has worked in America's past, but also look at what has been successful in other countries. So things like what President Roosevelt put forward with the New Deal.
But socialism, Grace, has never worked. Not in the Soviet Union.
She literally just gave a direct example of it working with the New Deal. But socialism hasn't worked. I swear they have a drawstring on their back. You pull it and they say the same fucking 5 things over and over on
in Venezuela, elsewhere. Let me get to this quickly.
Cuts her off, lies about what she just said, and then goes, let me change the topic. Yeah, because you're getting smacked around like the fucking monkey-ass bitch you are.
Because this conversation could go on for a very long time, because I don't agree that socialism is going to help anyone in the American dream. However, we're hearing reports that ultimately there's a new platform that the DSA has that would include eliminating the Senate, replacing the President and Supreme Court with an executive and judiciary chosen by and subordinate to a Congress, amnesty for all illegal immigrants, and defunding the Department of War. Is that the platform?
Well, many Americans understand that the democracy that we have right now isn't working for them. I don't think our platform would get rid of the president, but it would replace the Electoral College, which when Americans, I think, first understand it in their high school government classes, they see that, oh, wait, my vote isn't directly electing the president.
But would you, let me get...
He has to keep cutting her off because, as per usual, this is like now a theme on Fox. Every time they try to bash Democratic Socialists, they make them look super based. With they want a direct vote to determine things. They want universal health care and free college. They want higher wages. They want to end the wars. They keep doing the thing and people listen, they're like, yeah, that all kind of sounds good, doesn't it?
Get this thing, because we only got a few seconds left. Do you really believe in open borders and not having deportations? That's just incredibly contrary to law enforcement and security.
America has a really long history of welcoming working class immigrants. My grandmother and her mother came through Ellis Island and worked from Germany and worked as seamstresses. I mean, we
But we
believe
have
that
criminal illegal aliens in the country. Don't they need to be removed?
we believe that demilitarizing the border, that violent oppression of working class immigrants who come here, is not something that most Americans want. And I think the backlash to President Trump's policies really showed that.
Great. So Gavin, leave it there. Thank you for coming on. We hope you will come back and
Cooked. They gave her like a grand total of 1 minute and 5 seconds to talk, and she just straight up cooked the entire time. My favorite thing is Fox News having on Democratic Socialists, and Democratic Socialists low-key just obliterating them without even breaking a sweat. You love to see it. You love to see it. Shout out to Grace here. Shout out to any of the DSA people who are getting on these big platforms and, showing everybody now, like, what it means to be in DSA. The fact of the matter is now the wins make it undeniable. And Fox thinks that, like, they could just do these, like, gotcha moments. And it's not landing. It's not working. They're failing miserably. And everybody can see it except them. They're so up their own ass over on Fox News. They don't realize how this comes across. They don't realize, like Hannity has done 1,000 times, you can't just like scroll through the policies of DSA and have that be, an argument as to why it's bad. Because when people see universal health care, free college, a living wage, unions for all, free childcare, 4-day work week, ending the wars, amnesty for immigrants. When people see that, I'm sorry, if they're smart, they'll realize, oh, okay, yeah, a lot of that shit would fucking help me. It would absolutely help me. Like, what are we even talking about here? I think people are ready for a big change. I really do. The fact that, we've been dealing with neoliberal Democrats for so long who basically half agreed with Ronald Reagan, and then now you get Trump in there, and it's like MAGA cackistocracy and fascism. I think the only thing we haven't tried in the modern era is actual left-wing policies. The only thing we haven't tried is Bernie Sanders' agenda, democratic socialism, a throwback to New Deal type democratic policies. That's the only thing we haven't tried. And it's not a coincidence that when we implemented New Deal policies, it was called the golden age of economic expansion in this country, where the working class was thriving and people were much better off. Obviously, they were horrible at the time on race politics and gender politics. But now in this modern era, we could have better race politics and better gender politics and equality for all mixed with actual economic populism and giving people a decent chance at a decent life. And it's just great to watch these people be in mainstream circles now making the case. And it really goes to show you how hollow and vapid the right-wing ideology is when, like, every reply sounds like it's something that, like, a first grader would say, right? Like, it's so reactive and not thoughtful and pathetic and low IQ. And it's happening, bro. It is DSA's moment. There's no doubt about it.
Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.
So if you guys would like to see the effect that Joe Rogan has had on comedy, look no further than this right here, okay? So this guy's name is Ben Bankus, I guess is his name. And apparently, according to Seth Simons here, the New York City Comedy Festival just announced this guy as a headliner. So this is now what comedy has become in the Rogan era, and these are the kind of comedians that the Rogan sphere has birthed into the ether, okay? So prepare yourself for, what would it look like if Bill O'Reilly was a fat 27-year-old who wanted to be a comic, or if Sean Hannity was a fat 27-year-old who wanted to become a comic. This is what that would look like. Here's what we got. Here we go.
Now for a moment of silence for Renee Good. Really hope that dog's okay. And her pet.
Now, for those of you who don't remember, Renee Nicole Good was the woman who was shot in the face at point blank range from ICE, and then ICE lied about it and said that she was trying to run over the ICE agent with the car when, any standard analysis of that moment would show that she was pointing the steering wheel away and trying to drive away. So this was like the first instance of ICE illegally stopping a car, murdering somebody at point blank by shooting them in the face. This ICE Gestapo thug who got away with it is hiding, basically. Like he's been shifted or sent to a different state to stay on the job, by the way, in a different state and keep working, even though he's a murderer walking among us. Then you had Alex Preddy, of course, who was killed after that. Another example of basically a cold-blooded assassination. And for anybody who's keeping track, we're at about 53 different people who've died in ICE custody in Trump's second term. 53. I believe they've shot 11 of them. There's also evidence that one of them was lynched. They're not giving people their medicine that they have a right to when they're, in custody. It is just a litany of abuses. And this is why ICE is polling tremendously low. And now when you look at the polling numbers, Americans are more pro-immigration now than they've been in recent history, because they see, oh, okay, wait a second. If my options are militarized thugs in the street murdering people and arresting them and shoving them in concentration camps, or just having working class immigrants here who make the country better, I'm going to pick working class immigrants being here and making the country better. So that's who Renee Nicole Good is. And if you don't understand the joke here, the joke is she sucks. She's a piece of shit. So it's nice to know that if any of us ever get shot in the face at point blank by a Gestapo thug when we've done nothing wrong, it's nice to know that half the country will just immediately try to tarnish us and shit on our legacy and call us bad people merely for being a victim of a crime. That's great. Good to know. Good to know.
It's what you don't want when you're dealing with the police, your lesbian wife. Drive, baby, drive. Oh. Yeah, her last name was Good. That's what I said after they shot her in the face. Renee, Good. She's dead. No, I joke. Honestly, I'm not a liberal, so I don't celebrate the death of people that I didn't hate her. I didn't know her.
Why is it that every conservative is just like committed to not acknowledging reality? There is not a single honest, reasonable person who wouldn't acknowledge that the number one person who celebrates the demise of people they dislike is Donald J. Trump. And he goes, I'm not a liberal. I don't celebrate it when people who I don't like die or get killed. Didn't Trump literally just do that with Rob Reiner? He just did it with Rob Reiner. And that wasn't even that long ago. What was Trump's reaction after we learned that Biden has stage 4 cancer? He said, I don't feel bad for him at all. That's what he said. Okay, and I know I'm missing, Robert Mueller. He did it with Robert Mueller. That also wasn't that long ago. Was that like 3 months ago or something like that? He's like, good, I'm glad he's dead. And I'm not like those liberals. Please, with the fucking fake holier-than-thou bullshit. Oh, my days. I can't. The reason why guys like this are pathetic is because they're total hacks, number one. Number two, dude, we get it. I listened to you for a minute and 20 seconds. I already know your whole worldview. I already know everything about it. Let me guess. Liberals suck. They're the worst. But also, lesbians suck. Trans people suck. Black people suck. All people who politically are the opposite of you suck. And let me guess, you have nothing negative to say whatsoever about the billionaires, the fascists, the warmongers, the people who are actually fucking destroying not only this country, but the world. Pathetic. Let's keep going.
Now that I know her, I hated her. But that's the left's Charlie Kirk. They're going to get shirts. I am Renee Good. I am a dumb, retarded lesbian.
That's like, what's the joke? Where's the joke? This is Tony Hinchcliffe comedy, right? Where it's like, the goal is not actually to make people laugh. The goal is to make people go, He's more of a shock jock than a fucking comedian. Like, that's what this is. You're just trying to go for the shock value. Did I offend you? Oh, did I offend you? Are you going to be a little snowflake? Is that what it is? Are you going to be a snowflake? Am I offensive? It's literally like, Daddy, look at me. Mommy, look at me. I'm saying the thing I'm not supposed to say.
I mean, if you watch the footage, she should have been shot 10 minutes before that. The way she was acting, driving around with cops, and they gave her a break. They didn't shoot her right away because they're like, oh, she's a dumb, crazy, retarded lesbian. She doesn't know what she's doing. She's white, so she's never committed a crime before.
What'd I tell you? Fuck black people, fuck trans people, fuck gay people, fuck liberal. That's the whole thing. You know the whole package of ideas a minute into hearing him do his comedy, his so-called comedy.
right? They gave her the benefit of the doubt at the beginning, like, just get out of here, come on, and then she...
Yeah, that's everybody saying ICE was too kind to the woman that they shot in the face, who was no threat to her whatsoever. So they also say, I wonder if Mark Maron or the good folks at Dropout feel any reservations about performing in the same festival as this racist. Here's more of him. Let's see. So here he is. I guess now he's going to go after Somalis. Oh, how brave. How bold. How brave. Did you know the Somalis committed fraud, bro? Did you know that? Oh, what's that? The president who I support has committed like infinitely more fraud and pardoned more white-collar fraudsters who've committed way more fraud as a dollar amount, objectively speaking. What's that? Watch me not say anything about Trump's fraud and the fraud of the people he pardoned, because he got paid to pardon them, by the way, because he's a corrupt asshole who takes bribes. But watch me beat up on black immigrants because I'm so bold and I'm so brave going after those powerful black immigrants. Here we go.
Wouldn't want to be Somalian right now. That's It's, yeah. All the Democrats in the States are like, oh, it's just horrific watching my Somali neighbors being ripped from their homes. I'm like, if you have Somali neighbors, you live in a bad area.
There's no joke. It's just, the joke is just racism. That's it. Like, racism. Like, I get it. Half this country is filled with low IQ dipshits who, blame black people and gay people and trans people and Muslims and stuff for their problems. But can we stop pretending? Like, there's a reason why conservative comedy is like its own thing, because it's not really comedy. Like I said, it's just like, it's shock value. It's just, I'm being offensive to be offensive. Like, there's a reason why there was the idea for a long time was conservatives literally can't be funny, because they're always going after the powerless. They're not going after the powerful. None of the ideas are original. None of the thoughts are original. It all stems from the same thing, hatred of the other, right? So conservative comedy, yes, we need to get back to a place where conservative comedy has its place, right? Like, it's just, yeah, that's where you go if you're a dipshit and you have a low IQ and you want to be, you want racism to be the point, right? And so to have somebody like this now permeate mainstream culture, whose fault is that? I'll wait. Y'all know whose fault it is. It's in the title of this motherfucking video. This is what Joe Rogan has unleashed. And I actually think, if I'm being honest, I actually think Rogan would look at this and he would shudder at the thought. Because, like, he plays footsie with conservatism, right? Like, he endorsed Trump, he supports Trump, but he always, whenever it gets a little too hot in that kitchen, he always runs out and goes, who, me, bro? I'm an independent. I'm like a centrist, bro. I don't even know what you're talking about, bro. I'm like, I'm politically homeless and stuff, bro. That's what Rogan does when it gets a little too hot in that kitchen. But, like, here you go. This is what, these are the people who watch Rogan, love Rogan, saw the door open up for the Tony Hinchcliffe type comedians, and this is the result. This is the result. Good to know that in the rising age of fascism and cackistocracy in this country, we have fascist cackistocracy so-called comedians who are, preaching to the choir of the low IQ idiots. Here we go.
But I feel bad for the Somalis because, they're being called garbage and they're trying to defend themselves online and they don't have anything to work with. Yeah, that's their architecture. Piles of rubble. You guys okay over here? Was that guy offended? Nice.
Is that guy offended? Nice. What did I tell you? What did I tell you? The goal is not actually comedy. The goal is to be offensive. The goal is to shock value. The goal is to get you to go, and then they want to monetize the backlash. That's the idea. As if their lives are actually being ruined. No, it's just people saying you're an idiot because you're an idiot. It's people saying your ideology is stupid because it's stupid. It's people saying your perception of the world is grossly wrong because it is, right? Instead of going after the people who are hoarding all the fucking money and making the rest of us live in hell, you don't. Instead of going after the warmongers, you don't. This is the issue. The issue is you have an incorrect perception of the world, and your comedy is all informed by that, which is why it's not even really comedy. So anyway, great to know that we now have a fat 27-year-old short comedian that's basically Sean Hannity reincarnated or Bill O'Reilly reincarnated. Awesome. Bodes really well for the future. That this guy's headlining a comedy festival. Really great stuff, man. It's not indicative of the fucking collapse of this country. That's for sure.
Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You want to.
All right, so ICE has been on a murder spree, as you all know. There's been There was one in Texas the other day. They shot somebody who was on his way to work. Horrifying stuff. Then there was one in Maine. That guy's name is Joan Sebastian Guerrero. So he was here legally. He was authorized to work. He had a social security number. He was not a target of an ICE investigation. And according to DHS, he did not try to kill ICE agents. They said, oh, we wanted to protect the public, is what they said. Flat out insane that this guy was killed. By the way, there's also some speculation, some rumors, I don't know if it's true, but that this guy was actually right-wing, and this guy was MAGA. And MAGA guy getting killed by MAGA policies. It's actually a thing. It happens quite a bit, actually. You know, like people who vote for Trump, then they lose their Medicaid, and they die because they can't get their health care. What'd you learn, right? Like, horrible, horrible stuff. None of these people should be dead. So Trump came out and said the following. We learned that, hey, ICE says they're going to stop these traffic stops because it was questionable whether or not they were legal in the first place, right? But then ICE comes out and says, okay, we're going to stop this for now because they've killed multiple people this way. It's a thing, right? Trump catches word of this, and he says, the men and women of ICE are doing a great job. When that has to be done, crime is way down in America, in many cases with numbers that haven't been seen in decades. The open border policy of Sleepy Joe Biden allowed 25 million people to pour into our country unchecked and unvetted. Many were criminals, and we have to get them out. In order to do this, we must be strong, tough, and smart, and we cannot give up one of ICE's most important and effective crime-fighting tools, the traffic stop. So, out of desperation, they shut it down, trying to save the midterms, trying to stop people from being killed, right? And then Trump goes out there and goes, wrong, let's kill more people. Let's do more of that. So that lasted literally less than a day. It lasted less than a day, and then Trump came out and reversed the decision. Okay, well, that's something. Let's continue. ICE has been on quite a spree. Florida man killed during ICE traffic stop. This was during the period where they said it was frozen, too, by the way. Same day, agents were ordered to pause vehicle stops. 28-year-old man was hit by a semi-truck. He jumped out of his car and fled on foot. After agents followed him to a gas station, ICE claims it was an encounter, not a true traffic stop. That is the third death that occurred during a vehicle pursuit in traffic in just the past week. ICE has supposedly ordered a temporary nationwide pause on most vehicle stops. The identity of the man and his citizenship status have not been released. Incident occurred on State Road 16 in St. Augustine, Florida. Let's take a look. Here we go.
The 28-year-old man crossed the road and was hit. He died on the scene. We've discovered this is the third death involving ICE in a week across the country.
Our Christina Burgess is following the story. She joins us now live. So, Christina, what have you learned?
Well, Heather and Anthony, the scene is now cleared from this morning, but in the last couple of hours, we did learn from Florida Highway Patrol that 28-year-old man was fleeing across this busy state road that's to my left when he was hit by that semi-truck. The Florida Highway Patrol also telling us that ICE and Homeland Security investigation agents responded to this Wawa on State Road 16 right before 7 this morning. Troopers say that 4 people inside a vehicle ran from the area after encountering the agents. Investigators say that one of those individuals, a 28-year-old man, ran across State Road 16 and into the path of an oncoming semi-truck. The driver of that truck did stop immediately and try to render aid, but the man died at the scene. The Florida Highway Patrol is investigating the fatal crash, and while any questions about the federal encounter are being referred to ICE and Homeland Security at this time. And First Coast News, we did reach out to ICE earlier this afternoon, and they did tell us that they are expecting to release a statement from the Department of Homeland Security shortly, and we received that statement.
How about this one? ICE set to deport a single mom, leave her 1-year-old baby behind, abandoned at the hospital. Agents refused to release the infant into custody of her own mother, even though doctors cleared the girl to leave the hospital yesterday. Now her baby, a U.S. citizen, is detained and separated from her mom. Daughter has been hospitalized in intensive care for almost her entire life. She has a serious genetic condition requiring specialized care, prior heart surgeries, and a feeding tube. Her mother, Maria, has lived in the New York metropolitan area for the past 8 years. They want to deport a mother who's the only caregiver for this precious baby. Here we go. Watch
Leaving would mean leaving behind the most important battle of her life, that of her youngest daughter. At just 1-year-old, the little girl has spent almost her entire life in a hospital with a genetic condition. She has survived heart and tracheal surgeries and depends on a feeding tube to stay alive.
Because of her, I cling to this country because I don't want to leave, because I know that the care they receive is better here than in one's own country, because Guatemala is not going to be a country that has everything that is here.
The baby is supposed to be discharged on July 7, but the mother claims that a social worker at the hospital told her that they will not be able to release her due to her immigration status. What did the judge say at your meeting?
He told me at the appointment when I went to the courthouse that he ordered my deportation, because I went to my last courthouse and he ordered my deportation right away, and told me that if I appealed, I would tell you the same thing in 3 months. And I think that if something happens to me, I don't know who they will stay with. My daughter, or a healthy daughter, wouldn't worry, because I know that anyone can adopt them, or anyone can take care of babies.
After 8 years in this country, this Guatemalan mother says that there is only one priority in her life: not being separated from her daughter.
Do you have hope that something will change? Yes, I have hope. I don't lose faith. It's the only thing that keeps me going. And I think that's what keeps me going. I can go out and nothing happens to me. Because I always ask God to take care of me. Because my daughter depends on me. My daughter depends on me. And if something happens to me, my daughter will be left alone.
So understand that all this stuff starts happening as soon as they ramped up deportations again. 2,000 deportations a week, 2,000 arrests per week, I should say. Here's another one. Ice punched man repeatedly in his groin and back after already pinned to the ground. Bro, why are they taking his pants off? A witness asked. This is the sort of stuff that's happening on a daily basis now. It's a roving gang of thugs. That's what it is.
Oh my God, they're punching. Oh my God. Wow. Oh, Nina. Oh my gosh. Why do you kill him like that? What are you about to do? Oh my God, why are they hitting him? Hey, wow. Bro, he's taking his pants off. This has been a day for me already.
Jesus Christ, man. ICE brutally detained U.S. citizen, refused to even look at his ID. 5 agents slam man against brick wall, used chokehold to tackle him to the ground. All right, here we go. Again, these videos are coming out every day again now.
That's fucked up. Just scooping people off this fucking street. What kind of legal shit is this? Bullshit. They go to plates, trucks, cars. They go another one right there. Now, these motherfuckers wilding out here, bro. Scooping people up off the streets without even letting them identify themselves and shit. Yeah. Fucking 4 fucking cars. My man in whack work back here all day, every day, U.S. citizen. And they gonna fucking scoop him up without even letting him identify himself. It is bullshit, bro. Look at this shit. Watch out for your people out here. Yo, Poppy, that's fucked up what they did, bro. They just scooped them up and they do nothing.
Jesus Christ, man. ICE detained stepfather of Democratic candidate right after she won upset victory in primary. She says he was targeted by the angry incumbent she beat. Quote, I'm running for office. My dad was detained by ICE. It's no coincidence, she said. Here we go. She's running for office. Her dad was detained by ICE. It's not a coincidence, she says. Weeks ago, 21-year-old Elizabeth Tapia pulled off a major political upset in her town of Dover, booting out a number of incumbents. Then she got a phone call. Her stepfather, who is undocumented, had been detained. She doesn't think the timing is a coincidence. Elizabeth's father's undocumented status is not a well-kept secret in Dover. After all, it's a small town where everybody knows everybody. He only spent a few days in Delaney Hall before he was released to wait for his immigration court date later this month. Do we know what happened for sure? No, but it's possible, and the fact that this is even a consideration here, that it's in the realm of possibility, I think says it all. Guy works construction, by the way. He works construction. So do you understand yet? Do you understand what we're dealing with here? This is fascism. This is what fascism looks like. We're talking about a rogue agency, which is a criminal cartel that completely ignores court orders. They've assaulted innocent people repeatedly. Remember when they sent 288 people to a concentration camp in El Salvador, 90% of them with no criminal record whatsoever? Remember that? Remember when they arrested a U.S. Marshal? Remember when they arrested an American citizen because that American citizen was speaking Mayan and held him for a week? Remember when they arrested a woman immediately after she gave birth and they deported a 4-year-old American citizen with cancer? Remember how they've raided 7-Elevens and Home Depots and meatpacking facilities and farms? I mean, again, we've never seen anything like this before. where they tear gas cops and they tear gas journalists and they run over people with cars and they tear gas a baby and they assaulted an 84-year-old married couple. I mean, there's over 4,000 people missing because of ICE and nobody even talks about it. Nobody talks about the mass kidnappers who are abducting people and human trafficking, and they've ripped up the Constitution, no due process, no habeas corpus. Nobody even talks about it. And now they're on a fucking murder spree again. Dismantle them. Abolish ICE is the moderate position. The real position is abolish and fucking criminally charge all these disgusting freaks. All right, guys. That's the show, man. I love y'all very much. You guys know the drill. Everybody subscribe to the channel. Click that bell icon. That helps out big time and costs you nothing at all. You could also support the show on Patreon. Link below. Remember, there's real independent media. Sign up for Crystal Kyle and Friends on Substack. Joy Reid coming on this week. And also, go sub to Corin's World. It's his birthday. Hook him up with a sub. Let's make him gain a few thousand subs. It'd be awesome. All right, I love you guys, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Peace.
Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.